The camera pans across a dusty, broken street at sunset. A little girl, barefoot and trembling, stands before a row of rumbling motorcycles. Leather jackets, tattoos, roaring laughter, the Hell's Angels are gathered outside their clubhouse. Her voice cracks as she whispers. "Please, do you have milk? My brother's dying." The laughter stops. Every eye turns toward her. One biker drops his cigarette. Another lowers his beer. The silence is louder than the engines. And that's when everything changed. It was a burning July evening in the small town of Redwood, Arizona. The Hells Angels ruled the place like kings of the desert, feared, untouchable, untamed. Their leader, Rex Ironjaw Malone, was a man no one dared to cross. He had scars on his face that told 100 stories of violence, and a heart long buried under rage and whiskey. That night, the gang was celebrating a good haul. Music thundered, bottles clinked, and engines roared. But amidst the chaos, came a sound no one expected, a small, fragile knock on the iron door of their clubhouse. At first, they ignored it. Then came another knock. Softer. Desperate. Rex shouted, "Who the hell's that?" One of the bikers, Tank, opened the door, and froze. There she stood, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, wearing torn shoes, her cheeks stained with tears and dust. She looked up at the men, all leather and steel, and said in a trembling voice. "Do you have milk? My brother's dying." The laughter died instantly. The air changed. No one spoke. Tank blinked. "What did you just say, kid?" She pointed toward the hills. "My brother, he's sick. Mama said he needs milk. But the store's closed. Please, just a little." Rex stepped forward, towering over her. "Where's your ma, kid?" She's trying to keep him warm. We don't have anything left." For a moment, even Rex, the man who had once burned down a rival bar without blinking, felt something stir inside. He growled, trying to hide it. "This ain't no place for a kid. Go home." But the little girl didn't move. Her lip quivered. "Please, he's only 4. That broke something." Tank muttered, "Boss, we can at least get her something. She's just a kid." Rex turned away, grumbling, "We ain't no damn charity." But as he reached for his beer, he saw her reflection in the bottle, those pleading eyes, full of a pain he once knew. A pain from another life. Before anyone could speak, Rex slammed his beer down. "Get the van," he ordered. The bikers exchanged stunned looks. "We're taking her home." The drive was silent, except for the rumble of engines and the soft sniffles of the girl. Her name was Emily. She lived on the edge of town, in a trailer barely holding itself together. When they arrived, the bikers saw a woman, pale, exhausted, trying to fan her son with a torn blanket. The boy was tiny, gasping for breath. Emily ran to him, holding his hand. "I found help, Mama. They'll give us milk." The mother looked up, startled, and terrified, at the sight of the bikers. Rex held out a gallon of milk he'd grabbed from the clubhouse fridge. "Here. It's cold. Should help." The woman hesitated, then whispered, "Thank you. I didn't know what else to do." Tank found an old heater and plugged it in. Another biker brought canned food from his bag. They didn't say much, but every man in that room felt something shift inside them. For the first time in years, they weren't feared monsters. They were men, helping. When the boy drank the milk, his breathing steadied. He smiled faintly. "Mama, it's cold. I like it." Emily turned to Rex. "Thank you, mister." Rex looked away, hiding his face. "Don't mention it, kid." That night, the Angels didn't go back to partying. They sat outside the trailer, quiet, looking at the stars. And in that silence, Rex whispered to himself. Maybe we ain't as far gone as we thought. The next morning, Emily's mother came out with tears in her eyes. The milk helped, but he still needs medicine. The hospital's 2 towns away, and my car's broken. Rex stood, pulling on his gloves. Then we ride. Within minutes, the roar of 10 motorcycles echoed through the desert. Emily clung to her mother on the back of Tank's bike as Rex led the way. Dust clouds followed them like ghosts of their past lives. When they reached the hospital, the staff froze, a gang of leather-clad bikers stomping through the doors with a sick child in their arms. Rex shouted, "He needs help. Now." The nurse blinked, unsure. "Are you, with the family?" Rex's voice softened, "We are now." The boy was taken in. Hours passed. The gang waited in the hospital parking lot, sitting on their bikes in complete silence. Finally, the doctor came out with a tired smile. "He's going to be okay. You got him here just in time." Emily ran out and hugged Rex's leg. "You saved my brother." Something in his chest broke open. He knelt down and said, "Nah, kid, you did. You knocked." Word spread through town like wildfire. The same people who used to fear the Hells Angels began to see them differently. A week later, local kids started leaving thank you notes and milk cartons at the edge of their clubhouse gate. The bikers didn't know what to do with all that kindness, so they started giving it back. They fixed roofs, helped old folks, and raised money for the local clinic. Rex still rode hard, still wore leather, but the fire in his eyes was different now. Months later, as the sun set over Redwood, a familiar little knock came again. It was Emily, smiling, holding a drawing of her, her brother, and the angels. At the bottom, in shaky crayon letters, it said, "Not all angels have wings. Some ride." Rex framed it on the clubhouse wall. Sometimes the toughest hearts carry the deepest wounds. But one small act of kindness, one desperate knock, can awaken the humanity we thought was gone forever. Never underestimate the power of compassion. Because even in the darkest souls, there's always a spark waiting to be lit.